Jonesborough would not exist if it weren't for this spot of land and the buildings that have always stood here. Now, late 1700s, so we're founded in 1779, prior to the state of Tennessee even existing. So at the time, all of this is still part of North Carolina. And the issue that the settlers living in this area of North Carolina were facing was that the closest courthouse to, register your land, to get the deed, to pay your taxes, marriage, all of that, the closest courthouse was 600 miles away in Halifax, North Carolina.
Wow.
Not an easy journey by late 1700 standards. So the settlers living here petitioned North Carolina. They said, let us have a courthouse closer. This journey, this distance is ridiculous. And North Carolina agreed. And at the time, your two largest communities of settlers, if you were to go down Main Street, going towards Irwin, Tennessee, you come up along the Nolichucky River. So you had a large community of settlers on the Nolichucky. And then today, what's Elizabethton, the state historic site there, Sycamore Shoals, the fort was there. So the Watauga community was based around that fort. So these two communities on opposite ends are going to argue over who's going to get this new courthouse once North Carolina says yes. So North Carolina decides to split the difference and put it in the middle. And they determined that this spot of land is equidistant between those two large settlements, and also it has a nice water supply.
Okay.
So that's really how Jonesborough comes about. It's courthouse first, everything else comes second. And this is the original map. This is the original settlement map from the late 1700s. And we are right here where it says Public Lot CH. Courthouse hasn't moved from this little square since the founding of the town.
Mm-hmm.
And the rest of these little squares were about an acre in size. And you want to guess how much it cost in 1779 to get one of these squares?
$1? $5?
More.
100?
A little less.
75?
Yes. 75, which is a nice chunk of change in 1779.
Yeah, it was.
But Jonesborough was a really planned out town, and it was a courthouse town. So you have people with money moving in pretty much right away because they need a courthouse to do business. So the $75 entered you in a lottery, and you drew one of these numbers out of like a hat, and that's where you settled. It was luck of the draw. Now, of course, some other people bought a whole bunch of little squares and divided them up as they saw fit. But that was the original process of settlement. And then once you had your little square, you had 3 years. And in that 3 years, you had to build a brick, stone, or finely sawed lumber house. Near the end of the tour, we'll talk about why the Christopher Taylor house gets a pass. But really the idea was, if you're going to build a log structure, you got to have that clapboard siding on it. We don't want to see the logs. And part of that was fire prevention as well. But if you didn't follow those rules within 3 years, you forfeit your land. It went back into the pot for somebody else to take a stab at, and you're not going to get your money back. So make good use of your 3 years. And also a lot of those early ordinances, as you can see from the street, that most of the buildings are like right on the street. They used to be even closer because within the last 10 years we extended our sidewalks because we love having all our visitors. But those early ordinances specified you got to put your building or house right on the road, so that way you can do all your unsightly stuff like kill your cow or milk your cow behind your house or business. We don't want to see it on Main Street. There's actually a fine for that, so do it behind. Now, most of the streets here have changed names since this map was drawn. Like Market Street right here is now Main Street behind us. And then this squiggly line is Little Limestone Creek. So there's your main water supply, and we'll talk about that on our next stop on the tour. And most of these squares were mostly commercial, and then as you get further back, you had more houses mixed in. Now this courthouse, this was built in 1912. Before that, you had several wooden courthouses. We're not sure exactly how many wooden courthouses, since they have a tendency to burn. And Jonesborough is going to have a terrible time with fire until really the early 1900s. They built their first brick courthouse in the 1820s. It sadly burned. So they built the next one in 1847. But then by 1910, it was determined that, hey, Jonesborough needs a more modern courthouse because this is the county seat of Washington County. So since it was a political hub, the old courthouse was torn down, and this one opened for business in the fall of 1913. So it's a little over 100 years old, which actually makes it one of the newer kids on the block. But it's still very much the heart of Main Street here, and everything still kind of shoots off of it.